per hour or more. This formula gives the force in pounds exerted by the wind blowing against a flat surface. A is the area of the surface in square feet. V is the velocity in miles per hour. How much force is exerted by wind blowing 79 miles per hour against the side of the building shown below? Okay, so what you have to do is you have to find the area. Well, you're going to have to find the area of the rectangle and the triangle. So what's the area of the rectangle? $12.9 times 23. What, Gentry?
96.7.
Okay. And what is the area of that part? Your base is 23. It's 1/2 of 23 times 6.9. 79.35. So you're going to add those together, and it's 376.05. That is your area, but that's not the answer to the question. What's the answer to the question? What do you have to do to find the answer to the question? Put in the formula. Okay, so you're going to multiply 0.004 times 376.05 times the velocity. What's the velocity? 79 squared. So let's see. So what answer do we get here? What numbers do you get when you do that in your calculator?
I get 9,387.7.
In pounds. Listen to me. The force in pounds. Okay? What are these answers in? Tons. What's the relationship? So divide that by 2,000, and it's what? About 5. So that's a thinking problem. You got several strategies there. They give you every piece of information. You don't have to figure out anything to go in the formula, but you do have to pay attention to your units. Are you dealing in tons? Are you dealing in feet? What are your area? Pounds. Okay. Number 2. What is the formula for this shape? It's the base times the height. And you need to remember that the base and the height are going to be perpendicular to each other. So it's 43 times 38, and that's going to give you 1,634 inches squared. Did everybody get that? Okay, number 3 is a triangle. Area is 1/2 the base times the height. They give you the base and they give you the height. So it's 1/2 of 18 times 6. So that's 9 times 6, which is 54 feet squared. Does anybody have a question?
16.
We're on question 4. This is a trapezoid. It's 1/2 base 1 plus base 2 times the height. This is base 1, this is base 2, this is the height. So 1/2 of 8 plus 12 times 7. Well, 8 plus 12 is 20. Half of 20 times 7, 10 times 7 is 70 inches squared. Does anybody have a question on that one? Number 5 asks you to find the length of the missing side. The triangle's not drawn to scale. What strategy are you going to use on number 5? So 8 squared plus 6 squared is c squared. 64 plus 36 is c squared. 100 is c squared. Take the square root.
It's 36 or 56?
It's 36. So c is 10. C is 10. Number 6 asks you to find the length of the missing side. The only difference is they ask you to leave your answer in simplest radical form, and you're looking for a leg instead of a hypotenuse. So when you set this one up, it's 12 squared plus a squared equals 14 squared. This is your hypotenuse, so be sure you put that where you need to. So it's 144 plus a squared equals 14 squared is what? Is it 196? Subtract the 144. A squared is, what do we get there? 52?
Yes.
Okay. So a squared is 52. We need to take the square root. How do you handle the square root of 52? 4 go in there. Aaron, how many times will 4 go into 52? Yeah. So it's 2 square roots of 13. That is my answer. Number 7 says, a triangle has the lengths 4, 3, and 5. Is it a right triangle? Explain. Okay, here's number 7. How do you know? How do you know? What do? You let 3 be A and 4 be B and 5 be C, and you make sure it fits this formula. So that would be 3 squared plus 4 squared. Is that equal to 5 squared? 9, 16, 25, and this side's 25, so yes, it works. Number 8, find the length of the leg. What kind of triangle is this?
45, 45, 90.
Okay. In a 45, 45, 90, the legs are the same length, and the leg times the square root of 2 will give you the hypotenuse. Well, they're giving me the hypotenuse. So I know that the leg times the square root of 2 is equal to the hypotenuse. It's equal to 30. So in order to find the leg, I've got to divide by the square root of 2. Well, it says leave it in radical form, but I can't leave a radical in the bottom. So how do I fix that?
Times square root of 2 over square root of 2.
So I multiply it by 1, which looks like square root of 2 over square root of 2, and that gives me 30 square roots of 2 over, this is the square root of 4, but when you go ahead and simplify it, you get 2. Well, now you've got 30 on the outside and 2 on the outside. They simplify and give you 15 square roots of 2. That is the answer for the side length of that triangle. Number 9 is a 30, 60, 90 triangle. In a 30, 60, 90 triangle, across from 60 is the longest side, across from 30 is the shortest side, and this is the hypotenuse. They are related by the short side times 2 will give you the hypotenuse, and the short side times the square root of 3 will give you the longer side. So if you know the short side, you can figure the rest of them out. If you don't know the short side, you can still figure the rest of them out. This is the hypotenuse, and it is 16 square roots of 3. It is twice as big as the short side. So what does the short side have to be? 8 square roots of 3. How do you find the long side? Gentry, how do you find the long side? You take the short side and you multiply it by the square root of 3. So you got 8 square roots of 3 times the square root of 3. Well, what happens when you multiply the square root of 3 times the square root of 3? it's the square root of 9, which is really just 3, which is really what? 24. Okay. Ten. Find the value of x and y rounded to the nearest tenth. Okay. This is a 30, 60, 90 triangle. This is a 45, 45, 90. This is the short side. This is the hypotenuse. If this is 30, this is the short side. Okay? And this is 34. What's that have to be? 17. Because it's half the hypotenuse. Now, they're not asking me to find that, but I need to use that to find the x. If this is 17, what is x? 17 square roots of 2. Okay? If this is 17, then this section right here is 17. Now I need to know this section. It is
17 plus 17 square roots of 3.
okay, this section is 17 square roots of 3. So the whole thing is 17 plus 17 square roots of 3.
Could we convert it to 34 square roots of 3 or no?
No, you cannot make that 34 square roots of 3. However, they want you to give your answer to the nearest tenth. So for x, they do want you to multiply 17 times the square root of, 17 times the square root of 2. So they want you to record x as 24.0. Let me put that under there so y'all can see it. Then they want you to do 17 plus 17 square roots of 3 for the other one, and rounded to the nearest tenth, y excuse me, is 46.4. Back to geometry number 11.
And how you can earn money through the
Are
ads.
you
Set the ad.
are you finished? I don't want to interrupt your conversations.
Sorry.
Find the area of
That was my fault.
that was me saying please be quiet. Find the area of the trapezoid, round it to the nearest, or put it in radical form. 1/2 of base 1 plus base 2 times the height. Now here's the deal. 10 feet is from here to here, and also from here to here. It's not drawn to scale. This is a 30, 60, 90 triangle, with this being 60. So this piece right here is the short side. This is the hypotenuse. It's easy to figure the long side if you know the short side. So what will the short side be? 5. So the long side turns out to be what? 5 square roots of 3. Well, what does this piece turn out to be? The base at the bottom is 10. If this section's 5, what's this section at the top? 5. So it's 1/2 of 5 plus 10, those are your two bases, times the height, which is 5 square roots of 3. Well, what's 5 plus 10? 15 over 2. So it's 15 over 2 times 5 square roots of 3. Go ahead and multiply them together. You can multiply this and this. 15 times 5 is 75 over 2 times the square root of 3. That's how they want you to record your answer. It's in feet squared. Okay? If you changed it over and you multiplied it all out, and then you multiplied all your answers out and you matched them up, you'd be just fine.
How'd you get 15 over 2?
5 plus 10 is 15. 15 times 1/2 is 15 over 2. Okay. 12 Find the area of the rhombus. What's the formula for the area of a rhombus? 1/2 of diagonal 1 times diagonal 2. Well, what do you know about the diagonals of a rhombus?
They're perpendicular.
They're perpendicular. So that gives me a 30, 60, 90 triangle. What else do they do? So if that's 4, that's 4. So in this triangle, I know the short side. If the short side's 4, what's the long side? 4 square roots of 3. So what's this length here? 4 square roots of 3. So 1/2 of diagonal 1. Diagonal 1 runs all the way across here. How long is that? 8. Times diagonal 2, which runs this direction. It's 4 square roots of 3 plus 4 square roots of 3, which is how many? 8 square roots of 3. They want you to leave it in radical form, so they want you to multiply these three numbers together. 1/2 of 8 is 4. 4 times 8 is 32, so it's 32 square roots of 3. They don't give us any units here. So that's our answer. 13 says, given the regular polygon, find the measure of each numbered angle. How many sides does this polygon have? 8 sides. So what's the total number of degrees? How do you figure that? N minus 2 times 180. 8 minus 2 times 180. 6 times 180 is what? 1080. Every single one of these angles, if you added them together, you would get 1080. So how big is each one by itself? I get 135. Okay? So, if it's 135 and I'm cutting it in half, what am I going to have? Okay, so that's how you find angle 2. What about angle 1? How do you determine the measure of angle 1? Total degrees of a circle. It's what? 360. How many angles go together there to make that circle? 8. So if you divide that by 8, what do you get? 45 degrees. Everybody good? Find the area of a regular hexagon with an apothem of 16.5 and a side of 19 miles. These are miles. Round to the nearest tenth. What's the formula for the area of a regular polygon? Half of the apothem times the perimeter. So it's half of 16.5 times the perimeter. Well, what's the perimeter in this figure? It's a hexagon, and every side's 19 miles long. The word regular tells you every one of those sides is the same. So 6 times 19 is 114. So what did you get for an answer? Mm-hmm. Miles squared. 15 says you are planning to use a ceramic tile design in your new bathroom. The tiles are blue and white equilateral triangles. You decide to arrange the blue tiles in a hexagonal shape. If the sides of each tile measure 9 centimeters, what will be the exact area of the hexagonal shape? 1/2 the apothem times the perimeter. Well, if that's 9 all the way around, the perimeter is what? Perimeter is easy to find. 9 is the side length, and you have 6 of them, so what's that? 54.
Does that count as our apothem?
No, it's not our apothem. Our apothem is going to be this segment right here. So you've got to find the dotted line distance, and I'm enlarging this. This is 9, and this is 4.5. And here's the deal. You got to know how big that angle is. It's a hexagon. It's a hexagon. How big is every single one of those angles in a hexagon? Well, n minus 2 times 180 divided by 6. So that would be 4 minus 2 times 180 divided by 6. Every single one of those angles is 60. And this is actually half of that, so it's 30. So I have a 30, 60, 90 triangle. And I have the short side is 4.5 and the long side is 9, and that fits right in there. What's the matter? Did I make a mistake?
180 times 4 is 720, and 720 divided by 6 is 120.
Right. But you got to subtract, yeah. So that's 60, right? You're telling me it's 60. Okay, okay. Yes. This should be 6 minus 2. So it should be 4 times 180. Thank you, Braden. So I don't have the short side. What do I? Well, I do have the short side and the long side. So what's this side going to be?
4.5 squared is 3.
So that's what goes in there. And what do they want you to do here? Do they tell you how to get your answer? We're going to do it to the nearest tenth if they didn't. So 0.5 times 4.5 square roots of 3 times 54. That's the area of the whole thing. 210.4 is the area of the whole thing. What's the question ask?
What will be the exact area of each hexagonal shape?
You decide to arrange the blue tiles in a hexagonal shape. The sides of each tile measure 9 centimeters. What's the...
Ow.
Tiles are blue and white equilateral triangle. Okay. How much of it's blue? How much of it's blue? The tiles are blue and white. Alternating. Do what? 50%. So we got to divide it by 2.
Did you say you arranged the blue and white in a...
No, I'm just asking. They did not ask this question right here. They did not ask you that. I asked you that. This is your answer to that problem. I'm the one that asked about the blue. Okay, let's do 16, and then that'll be probably all I get done today. It says grade 7 students were surveyed to determine how many hours a day they spent on various activities. Results are shown. Find the measure of each central angle in the circle graph. What about sleeping? Sleeping is 33%. 33% of what? 360. So that's 0.33 times 360, which is what? Okay. Okay. What's the other one? Eating? 8%. 8% of 360. 0.08 times 360 is what? 28.8. Okay.